Our guest today takes us all the way to Delhi. International cricket director and a man who has, on occasion, been head of news for a platform in India as well. A push to play behind closed doors. I'm just trying to pick your brain as to whether, if the curve is flattened, but perhaps not enough for governments to say, get out there and socially be in one another's spaces, would that be a good idea or not?
It depends upon how well you sort of organize it, because obviously eventually it is anybody can spread this disease. We know that this is quite a virulent strain, but yes, it is possible. The advantage with this is that you can play in one sanitized arena. The NBA is planning that in Las Vegas, apparently. So yes, but I don't know when that might be possible. In India, I think the worst is yet to come. We're on the up as far as the curve is concerned. So we've got to wait and see where we are at what stage. And if, for example, the IPL has to be played behind closed doors, then it could be. But when is the question?
Just on the IPL, what is the latest decision that has been taken with regards to this thing that has just grown into this absolute monolith around the world of sport?
I don't think a particular decision is being taken. We're hearing stories of them wanting to play the IPL at some point, even if it is with Indian players only, or a shortened version of the IPL. There are different stories coming through. So it's possible that we might have some sort of IPL. The other thing is going to be about the World Cup and when the World Cup is going to be held, because that Australia has sort of isolated itself for 6 months, which will take us to the end of, I think, September. And October 14th is the start of the T20 World Cup. So I don't know whether that's enough time. And if you're going to come into the country, are you going to be, needing to isolate again for 14 days? So I don't know about that World Cup. It may be pushed back. It may not be. We don't know how things pan out. But if it is, then a window opens up. Again, the window will be short, so every country will want to play their own games as well. So I don't know what sort of an IPL would be held if there is one indeed. But yeah, obviously everybody wants to play, this big money spinner, this big attraction. I think it might happen. We can't write it off.
You and I share something in common in that we both wait for a phone call or an email to book us to go and work in a particular part of the world, or in my case, particular part of the country. How's this been affecting you personally?
Well, I had it all lined up. I think until the end of the year was all set. It was perfectly set, but life has other plans sometimes. It's tough because you don't earn if you don't work, and so one is sitting at home and not working essentially. And for a freelancer, in our part of the world, there are going to be no handouts.
Yeah.
So it's basically you're sitting without work for however long it's going to be.
You and I are in a privileged position. Here we are chatting to one another thousands of kilometers apart on Skype. We can structure our lives still the way I think that we want to, even if it is in a confined space. But what is lockdown like? What is COVID-19 like from what you've seen for the average Indian citizen?
Well, an average Indian citizen has struggled. The lockdown was announced with 4 hours notice. It was probably needed.
4 hours? 4 hour notice? Wow.
4 hour notice, yes. So our cities, our population has migrated to the cities. We've got, huge cities. Delhi is one of the largest in the world. Mumbai is massive. Calcutta. So there are migrants that come in from the rural areas and come in and work here in different ways, and all of these guys have suddenly got no work, nowhere to sort of eat, nothing really to do. So what they had to do was go back to their towns, and since the country was in lockdown, there was no way that they could go back to their towns. And so people walked 600, 700 kilometers to get back And there was this huge tragedy of this reverse migration. Um, Again, people ask, do you have a better idea? I probably don't. It, it could have been planned better, I think. But again, you needed this lockdown. The economy is also going to struggle. It is struggling right now. Our economy is built upon the labor of these daily wages, and there is nowhere to earn a daily wage at this point in time. So it is a bit of a struggle. It is a bit of a tragedy at this point in time. It's a human tragedy. It's an economic tragedy, um, and obviously it's going to be a medical tragedy if it goes any further and if there's no lockdown. So there is no easy answer to this.
Even in a flight.
Yeah. To not help them would be crazy. So what we were trying to do earlier was make sure that we could provide dry rations to the slum dwellers, because they would have no money to stock up, because most people usually buy maybe for a day or so, or maybe a week at the outer. And then when this migrant migration started, we realized we really needed to change gears and give them ready-to-eat food, because they wouldn't be able to cook on the road, which is when we started with giving out biscuits and water bottles and ready-to-eat meals. And then the government started putting them in shelters, because they were taking the infection away from the city into the hinterland, where, as you would know in your country as well, the medical services are, if at all, present absolutely negligent. So that's when we decided that maybe we should provide cooked meals to the shelters which the government is doing.
You know what I found interesting, and it is a philosophical point right now. We're always told that disease does not discriminate. But in these last few weeks, we've seen how the social inequality has been exposed by how we are living with this pandemic.
But the best bit is that this time it's the bottom-up pyramid. It's the poor who were safer and then the rich and the privileged who were carrying disease this time, because they were bringing in from their holidays abroad or their work abroad. So this time it was a different story. It wasn't the poor with their poor sanitation and access to hardly any facilities and malnutrition who were at risk. It was us, people like you and I, and who were traveling all over the world. And then we passed it on to them. You and I will survive. You and I will survive because we have access. We have the money. We also have the food to fight anything that happens. The poor become vulnerable because of us yet again. So inequality and social justice are issues that this part of the world has to address in such a big way.